Welcome to another episode of Inside the Burrow, the FAU podcast for and by Owls fans, brought to you by the FAUOwlsNest.com. This week I have Cyrus. You guys know Cy, former FAU Owls Nest beat writer, Underdog Dynasty editor. He's joining us this week to kind of talk about a calamity of disgust of errors that we saw over the weekend in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I'm not sure if you watched it, but Kirk and I last week we were talking about how we have basically no hope going into Bowling Green, and that's because what we saw the previous 2 weeks against Marshall, and then in Norfolk against Old Dominion, and then here you go, 52-17. We made Western Kentucky look like one of the best teams in the nation. We made Bailey Zappi look like a legitimate Heisman contender. So, Cyrus, good to see you again. Happy Thanksgiving. Any thoughts on whatever that was over the weekend?
Well, hello, Jack. Thanks everyone for having me again. Obviously, always a good time to talk football with you guys here and Inside the Burrow. I mean, it kind of eerily reminded me, of one of Charlie Partridge's final games when Western Kentucky just completely destroyed FAU and won 52-3, if I remember correctly. And it kind of felt like that, where you knew right from kickoff FAU had no chance right from the get-go. And it's not trending well for our Owls here with 3-game losing streak. Offense still kind of looking pretty lethargic and inept to start games, and the defense can only hold on for so long. But against the tops, we kind of already knew with Bailey Zappi in that offense, and that they were going to air it out, that we needed to put up points and kind of keep their offense off the field for as much as possible. And they just did not have the game plan or the energy to get that done.
Yeah, we definitely knew it was going to be a tough test. Maybe I was just so disappointed in how we handled the 2 weeks before. But I mean, I kind of expected a blowout. I think my prediction was like 45-17, something on the point, something around there, maybe 38. I don't know. I knew most likely it was going to be a loss, but it's just crazy how within 3 weeks we go from we're going to compete to for a conference championship, we're going to try and win the division, to now just flapping here in the wind, hoping we can beat Middle Tennessee to go bowl eligible, to win 6 games. It's just crazy to me because there's so much talent on this team. It's not like N'Kosi Perry can't get it done. We know he can. It's not like Johnny Ford can't get it done. We know he can. Same thing with the receivers, especially with the defense. I mean, the defense forced 3 turnovers. Coach Taggart always talks about that 3 turnover threshold. That's what needs to be done in order for a team to win the game. Mission accomplished, but the team got blown out. It didn't matter. Western Kentucky could have had 3 more turnovers for 6. It wouldn't have mattered. So I just don't know how we got here. It is worrying nonetheless because it's a 3-game losing streak. Do you remember how last season ended? With a 3-game losing streak. I said this in our takeaways piece, that this is the very first time FAU's had back-to-back 3-game losing streaks since 2015, 2016, the last 2 years of the Partridge era. So just like you were saying, you're kind of getting flashbacks to that. Well, there's good reason, because it's not just that one game. It's a trend that we're now seeing. So because we're seeing this trend, because we talk so much, especially in college football, about culture, we're now seeing what's become a championship style culture here at FAU, and Taggart will be the first person to say that there is an expectations for championships here. That's not coming to fruition, and you got to think that falls on the coach. So, you had some really interesting tweets over the last week, but especially the last weekend, about the administration's position when it comes to Coach Taggart. Just so you guys know, Cy, before I ask you this question, Colby from the Nest asked Coach Taggart if there was a discussion with the administration following a loss to Western Kentucky. He said there was not, besides him talking to Brian White, which he normally does all the time. Coach Taggart said, "quote that the higher ups or the administration still have confidence in his leadership at the football program as head football coach." So I want you to go take it away real quick. Explain your thoughts on maybe the future of the program right now, especially right before the Owls take a jump into a new conference.
Jack, I think it obviously, giving my background, if anyone knows me on Twitter, I have a pretty interesting history with Taggart. So I followed his career for a pretty long time, dating back to his USF days, and then obviously the head coach at a school that I grew up following in Oregon, and then 1 year done going to FSU, and then obviously ending up at the school that I love and graduated from in FAU. And so in his career, we've kind of it's been really kind of up and down in that a lot of his success has been really tied to just one player, which is Quentin Flowers, star quarterback for USF. Outside of Flowers' production in that one big year that kind of catapulted it to Taggart taking the Oregon job, we haven't really seen him be a successful head coach without him. At Oregon, he had Herbert for a year. They went 7-6. There was a kind of, an entry to Herbert that kind of caused him to lose a couple of games. But at there, the big deal was this team is very undisciplined, very penalized. There's not a lot of organization going on. A lot of that was disregarded just because of how well Taggart can recruit and the national brand that Oregon wanted to pursue at the time, which they've been able to continue on the heels of Taggart's departure with Mario Cristobal. We see Taggart at FSU, and the main reason why he was hired is because of his recruiting. And then he's a Sunshine native. Bradenton grew up as a Knoll. Perfect match in heaven. Only lasts a year plus because, once again, the things that we've seen at Oregon and even before at USF, the team is very undisciplined. Add into the dysfunction and that the job may be being too big for him to handle, and then the fan turnout, which he completely lost the fan base with a bunch of snafus with social media graphics and what have you. He's out in 1+ year. He ends up at FAU. And at the time, I thought it was a very odd decision because usually we see coaches who come from that fall from where they're at the top of the game. And so you're going at FAU. Not saying that FAU is a terrible job by any means. We've seen what Lane Kiffin did as far as raising the stature of the job and the impending moves to the AAC, which we're all thankfully proud of that we got out of CUSA just in time. Good job, but it takes a lot of energy and dedication to really lead this program. You have to be good at fundraising. You have to be all in it as far as branding wise, which is something that we saw Partridge do a hell of a lot when he was in the job. He did a really good job of repairing a lot of ties that Pelini had torn down with going out to the transfer market and bringing a lot of JUCO guys and not really investing a lot of recruiting time in South Florida. So Partridge does that, right? Lane Kiffin did a hell of a job of branding the university, marketing the university, come to the FAU and all that stuff, right? Transfer portal and being a great personality on Twitter. He made FAU appealing, made people want to go. We've seen that from the applications as far as generating so much buzz that FAU surpassed their application turnout that they did the previous year after his first year. And then you couple in that with Chun's ability to fundraise and all that stuff and how that ended up leading to the Oxley and everything that came with that. So now we have Taggart. He doesn't have a huge fundraising background history, and he's not really great with generating buzz. We've just seen where he was at the top of the game. So the hire itself was pretty odd other than him being a name and him having Florida ties. But what he's known for is recruiting, right, and offense, which is exactly what FAU really needs. Perfect match made in heaven. COVID year 2020, okay, odd, right? Kind of throw that away. But we've seen, in that 10-game sample, I believe it was 10 games. I want to say it's 10 games. In that 10-game sample, give or take, penalties, offense very inconsistent, defense keeping us in games, but not necessarily closing those games in order to compete and win CUSAs. We turn over the roster a little bit, and now we have our guy, quarterback at Perry Ford, who's a former USF running back, played under Taggart years ago. We have the skill positions talent to compete because we know what we have. We're not that far away removed from Kiffin, but there has been enough turnover attrition where this is pretty much his roster, the makeup of his identity of what he wants the team to look like. And all we've seen is the same thing that we've seen in previous Taggart teams. Undisciplined play, and inconsistent offensive play without a bona fide star at quarterback. I think Perry has the tools to lead FAU to win Conference USA for sure, but we haven't seen that kind of development from Taggart and the rest of the coaches to get us to the point where we feel, or at least I feel, extremely confident that next year FAU can and will win CUSA. Add into the fact that the recruiting has not exactly been lights out. The energy around the program has been very lethargic, despondent. Do we need Taggart to be on Twitter saying come to the FAU or any of that stuff? No, we don't need that. I understand that we're likely not going to have another personality like Clifton on the sidelines and branding and marketing for the program and doing all that. But there's just no buzz around the program right now. Whether that was winning earlier in the season or even now that we're in a 3-game losing streak, there's just not a lot of buzz. There's not a lot of there's not really even a lot of cries for like Taggart's doing a terrible job, because the program is just so far off the radar. And some of that is just being in CUSA and being like a group of 5 school and whatnot. But a lot of that, I think, is just Taggart's lack of building an impression on the university and on the football team. His thumb is not really on the post, I feel like. And it would not surprise me if we were to see a change should FAU loses this weekend. Now, I say all that to say that he's getting paid $750,000 a year, or $750,000 for your, I believe, 4 or 5 year contract. Buyout drops down after this year to around $2.5 million. Not peanuts by any means for FAU, but certainly doable. The big question for administration is going to be, do they feel confident in him being the lead man for when FAU joins the AAC? There's going to be a lot of branding that comes with that. A lot of expectations. Mike Oresco, AAC commissioner, believes that FAU has the potential to be the next UCF, right? I'm not really very big on becoming the UCF because I think FAU can achieve much more than that. And I would like for the school to have their own identities apart from whatever is going on in Orlando. But I can see the comparatives and the similarities between 2 Florida-based schools who are achieving and doing well and who take athletics very seriously. I'm not confident that Taggart is the face of that. I'm not confident that the program is trending in the right direction. And mainly, I'm just really concerned about what we are going to look like in 2 years when we're no longer playing FIU. That counts as a conference game. We're no longer playing, not Western Kentucky, but just a bunch of like bottom tier schools in the conference. Those are no longer going to be easy wins. We've seen what UTSA is doing now and their commitment to football. We already know what Bill Clark, who's never probably going to leave Birmingham, and what UAB is doing. SMU, fertile, very healthy, stable program right now. The competition is going to be risen, and it's up to FAU to kind of rise up or fall and be the bottom, be like the FAU of the next AAC. I think FAU should move on from Tech. Do I think that they will? Probably not, but I would say nothing is for sure. With the coaching carousel that is going on right now, I mean, we're seeing that Miami might get rid of Manny Diaz. Florida just opened up. It's a big market. A lot of big schools are out there looking for their next head coach. And not saying that they share the same coaching pool as FAU is when it comes to evaluating coaches and competing for the same coaches, but it's just giving you an idea that FAU is not going to necessarily be the belle of the ball if they were to open up this cycle for this coaching carousel. And so, being that FAU is a very desirable job, as we've seen, we were able to hire the former Florida State head coach and hire a name like Lane Kiffin, who might be, who's rumored to be in much bigger jobs this cycle. It's clearly desirable, but when the pool is so big like this, it might be better to wait another year. And so it wouldn't shock me if Taggart was to come back for a 3rd year. And maybe he does deserve that 3rd year. I haven't seen anything on the field in these 2 years that suggests that things are going to change, though. I don't think he's the right man to lead FAU into the AAC. And I think if we're going to see any significant progress made, it'll have to be under the next head coach, because going 6-6 is just not something that FAU is no longer excited about, and nor should we be. We went through that phase already. And once we've started hanging banners and winning conference championships, we know what this school and this program is capable of, and 6-6 is not the bar.
Well done, Cy. Well done. I want to add a couple notes, if I can, to that. Well, when it comes to, maybe should FAU move on? Maybe, but Will they pull the trigger? Maybe not. I really wonder how much the impending payouts that the conference realignment will have in that. If FAU were to stay in Conference USA and maybe even get some payout money, some exit fee money, then maybe maybe FAU does pull the trigger. But you got to think FAU has to pay Conference USA, then have to pay the American. There was a word that FAU might not get the same amount of money as like the USF, Tulane's, SMU's, and Memphis's of the world regarding the American media payout, at least right away. We're still unsure about that. Oresco hasn't been talking about it, but he hasn't shot it down either. So it makes you think something's there. That all being said, I want to be forthright. I want to be honest here. I was especially a big fan of the Taggart hire. Uh, I don't believe he got a fair shake at Florida State. I think that what he had to do at an institutional level, when it comes to fixing that culture after Jimbo left, is a lot more than what Norvell had to do to clean up Taggart's mess. Remember Norvell had a worse record than Taggart at the point where Taggart was fired in his second season just a couple weeks ago. Now Florida State might become bowl eligible. Haven't even seen that. But it's just I was just excited for Taggart because I think he can do it. Personally, I do love the Tampa Bay connection. Not only was he at USF, but he's from Bradenton, just south of the Bay Area. But you did mention that kind of the creating the buzz, the market potential. One thing that I was excited about the Taggart era that I've gotten disappointed upon was when he was hired in his introductory press conference. He said that he cannot wait to get on a campus and talk to students, talk to the ones on campus living in the dorms, hang out with them, just to kind of grassroots build something special. And he hasn't done that. Again, you kind of give him a pass on the first year. With COVID and all, things are obviously a bit different, but he hasn't really done that. Now, granted, nor did Lane. Lane didn't do any type of grassroots marketing. Yeah, he tweeted some fun memes and stuff, but it was never, going into the breezeway to pass out pizza like you see Coach Traylor do at UTSA. But granted, Lane, he won games. He won championships. I mean, ask Marshall fans about what's really important. Am I right, guys? It's championships. So I guess it does really just fall on how aggressively ambitious this FU administration is. I'm going to quote President Kelly when I say unbridled ambition. Is that something that's real where FAU is going to have to take a massive dent in the coffers to pull the trigger to match the ambition of himself, President Kelly, of athletic director Brian White, of the fan base, or are they just kind of sit there, give him another year? We don't know. We don't know. So again, Coach Taggart said that the administration said that they have confidence in him. We don't know if that came from Brian White. He said that he didn't meet with President Kelly. But yeah, you think that his career definitely is on the line this weekend against decent Middle Tennessee team. I mean, especially compared to us guys. They beat Marshall, okay? Who's also fighting for bowl eligibility. I mean, this is it. This is where we are now. You said it. You hit nail on the head. We go to expecting championships, and we're now scrapping to make it to a bowl. That's not the level of expectations that this program has gotten used to. So, I mean, quick note, Cy. I mean, do you have any confidence going to the Middle Tennessee game? Because I mean, that's a program that has always given us issues. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about Richie James in Partridge's last game ever. That one haunts me maybe more than any other game. Well, maybe Buffalo. Yeah, that year, the year before, maybe Rice. Okay, a lot of games haunt me. All right, I'm just getting triggered thinking about it. But I personally think that I haven't seen anything the last 3 weeks that gives me any sense of confidence. The only thing that gives me slight confidence is that Middle Tennessee also didn't look good against Old Dominion last weekend. So there's that, but that doesn't do a lot. So how are you feeling going into this senior day, senior night for players like Zion Gilbert, James Charles, Willie Wright? Um, is there going to be any real fight in this team? Has the team given up? Do you have any confidence going into this one at all?
Just have no confidence. It's hard to get a feel for this team, and that's because of how rickety they've been throughout the season, right? Like seeing them in Air Force and against Air Force in Colorado Springs, like I thought they were going to show up. It was a great environment, and they were flat right from the beginning. Just it seemed very disinterested. And then you fast forward, it big game, biggest game of the year, really against Marshall, and they just look out of sync. Like there's just something off kilter about the team. And then with the season pretty much on the line as far as goals and expectations, they go to Old Dominion and Norfolk, and then they're just flat. And so I think that the team knows that there's all of the expectations as far as Conference USA championships and competing for CUSA East and all that. It's kind of out the window now. They're just paying for pride, which shows you the growth and how where the program is going for. Like a couple years ago when I forgot his name, Brian Wright, interim offense coordinator, going 5-6 into that game, it was a big deal to be 500, right? Like that we saw the team show out. Warren made good plays, Jacquez Johnson, like it was a big game. It was a big deal. It was in the infancy of the stages of that in that tenure, I guess, or that transition period of where FAU was at the time. Going 6-6 meant a lot. Going 6-6 just doesn't mean a lot now. And given the landscape of where these players have been and what they know what success looks like as far as the upperclassmen, it's going to really kind of hinge on them. I hope they come out and perform. It's like they had a huge winning streak before, when the season started as far as their performance at home. And then we saw what happened last week, or against Marshall and how that was ended. And then it doesn't seem like the energy is there around the program. And there's not a lot of great vocal leadership, it seems like. Who are the leaders on the team? I would think Ford is one of them, but he hasn't been here for a long time. Um, I would think Perry is, but again, he's another face that hasn't been there for a long time. Zion for sure. I mean, we can name a bunch of defensive players, but the big bunch of the issues around the team has just been offense, and I'm not exactly sure where they're at. And then, like you said, Middle Tennessee has historically given FAU a ton of problems, a ton of issues. And so, under Rick Stockstill, knowing that 6-6 means a lot to them, and especially considering the environment around that program earlier this year, where a lot of people were calling for Stockstill's head, and now they're kind of have a lot of momentum. Where a bowl season will kind of pick things back up. Where once we leave, and I'm sure that that's going to be played up a lot in their locker room, that we're leaving for the AAC and they're staying for UCUSA. There's going to be a lot of motivation there, and there's plenty of Florida players on that roster, as there always is, that are going to be looking to make a statement this week. So I really don't see FAU winning, and whether that leads to a decision on Taggart, his buyout is $3 million. It doesn't decrease until $1 million, I believe, until December 2023, I believe. And so you made a great point with all of the payout fees that FAU is going to be doing with CUSA and then paying an entry into the American. Will administration want to bite that? Well, admit an error and kind of get out of the contract from Taggart now, or wait and try to save $2 million and see if he can turn it around later. Just looking at the language of it, I'm pretty sure if he's terminated before December 22nd or December 1st, 2022, it'll be $3 million. And if he's terminated on or before December 1st, 2023, it'll be $1 million. So is $2 million a lot for FAU? That's the question that we don't know. The finances as far as that. I would say $2 million. I mean, I think $2 million is a lot, but I don't think it's a lot as far as saving what's at stake with the football program. And knowing that if you're going to make a change now versus next year, $2 million, I think, I would move on, assuming that, they don't reach a bowl this year, especially with expectations and knowing that A 500 team is not what anyone first saw or even expected. But we don't get paid to make those decisions, Jack.
It's probably a good thing because I could not handle that stress, bro. Absolutely not. Um, it's interesting that we're talking about buying out remainders of coaching contracts. Middle Tennessee, I mean, they can't buy out stock still because they're so broke. I mean, they're stuck with them. Just so fans know, Sai, you mentioned that they're stuck in Conference USA. Middle Tennessee is. That was an active decision by that administration because Middle Tennessee pretty much had an invite in their hand to go to the MAC with Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky said, yeah, we'll do it. But the MAC wanted both of them. They wanted to really help carry that national market. And Middle Tennessee is so broke. They said, we cannot afford the Conference USA buyout. We want to stay to collect all of the exit fees. Think about how skint you have to be to say, yes, we want our conference to implode so we can make a few more $1 million. And that goes to show that's why Stockstill, who I think is a good dude. I've interviewed him a couple of times. He's always very kind to the media. At least he's been to me when I've talked to him, which I'm thankful for. But I mean, there's a reason why Middle Tennessee has been stagnant there. I feel like we all always forget that Middle Tennessee went to the Conference USA Championship in what was that, 2018? Yeah, just 3 years ago or something. But that's because they've done absolutely nothing since then. So Middle Tennessee, they're just like FAU. They're 5-6. Their offense has slowed down. They have some serious quarterback issues. Chase Cunningham, their guy, started the season. I don't even. Didn't he like leave the program or something? Isn't he? Yeah, it's a whole thing. So yeah, they have another quarterback, Nicholas Vitiato, Mike DiLillo. It sounds like I'm in Staten Island right now with all these Italian names. Or at a New Jersey restaurant, ordering a pizza pie. I don't know. I just don't have a lot of confidence, and that is because I think you hit the nail on the head again. There seems to be a lack of offensive leadership, and I was kind of hoping if there's going to be an absence of an offensive leader, we'd kind of be able to lean on an offensive coach to help us through that, and that's not something we've seen. It's not something that we saw when he was at Florida State. We saw it at USF, but I mean, he had Q. That's something that Kirk and I, two Tampanians, talked about. He had Quentin Flowers. He had that offensive star, that leader, charismatic guy. Who is that on the offense? When it comes to charisma, I guess it's James Charles, but I mean, he doesn't have the same, no disrespect to him. We love him, senior night for him as well. He just doesn't have that same it as Johnny Ford does. But on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, you can go on and on. We mentioned Zion. Kiki comes to mind. Caleb Bryce, who might be back. Coach Taggart did say that today. Might be back for this game. Names go on the defense side of the ball. So that lack of an identity really worries me, and I don't expect us to find that overnight. I mean, we haven't seen it in 3 weeks. We haven't seen that since Charlotte. Maybe they left it in North Carolina. I'll start looking around here, y'all, see if I can find something. Maybe it looks like roadkill on the side of the road. If I find it, I'll let you guys know. But there's just no identity right now, and it's worrisome. We're 5-7. Middle Tennessee's 5-7. Charlotte's 5-7. Old Dominion's 5-7. That you're talking about. That's how bad Conference USA is. That is literally how bad Conference USA is, and we are a part of that. So it stinks. It stinks. I don't have a lot of confidence either. But like I've been saying for the past 2 weeks, I hope I'm wrong. One game I will be keeping an eye on, no doubt about it, will be a game that is going to decide the East. Again, we were hoping that we would be involved in that, but alas, it was not meant to be. Western Kentucky will go to Marshall. They will be playing just before we do on CBS Sports Network, 3:30. We're going to be on Stadium Network. Great. So excited about that. We'll be on the CW locally in West Palm Beach Media Market. And that's like the only place where you can watch it over the air, by the way. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing, but it's a CW. Come on. So that will be interesting. Winner of that game will go on to the Alamo Dome to face a UTSA team that beat UAB in probably one of the best games in Conference USA in a long time. Buzzer beater, if you will. Uh, great game. Uh, so yeah, that'll be a good one to watch. I definitely implore uh, FAU fans to root for Western Kentucky this Saturday. But most of all, root for UTSA because that's a great program, great fan base. I've noticed that our fan bases definitely get along with theirs. So that would be good for mid-major football if they're able to go to a big bowl game and take down someone big time. And it'll be good for Conference USA and the American because the Roadrunners will be making the jump with us. So that's going to be it. Cyrus, I really want to thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy lad. Do you want to go ahead and let our nation know where they can follow you? If you're not following Cyrus, I don't know what you're doing with your lives, but Cy, if you want to give everyone a reminder where they can get you, where would that be?
Sure, no problem, Jack. You can follow me on Twitter at CoolSciWrites, and you can follow any of my work, which I hope I won't be writing anytime soon. But if there is a departure over the weekend with Taggart and some news, I will have a list ready. I already have a list ready to let you know where my mind is at right now.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, Cyrus says it's definitely possible. He feels it, and again, like him and I both said, it just depends on how ambitious this administration is. They talk about unbridled ambition. Is it a reality? Is it not? But doesn't mean that we're hoping that we lose either. We'd much rather win, no doubt about it. I actually, sorry, just came up to me when, and forgive me, guys. I know we're about to sign off, but we're talking about the coaching carousel and how some of the mid majors might be a bit apprehensive to let go of a coach because of that. Maybe it's a good time. Oh boy, there goes my flag. I'm gonna see. I saw it sagging. I wasn't sure.
Not a good omen.
Yeah, you know what? It's gone. Yeah, maybe that's a sign. Sign for this weekend. Things are falling apart, you could say, but maybe this would be a good time to make the move because of how intense the coaching carousel is already this season. You mentioned Lane Kiffin embracing last chance U. Maybe FAU really could become last chance U. I mean, FAU rehabbed Lane Kiffin. You can obviously say that the OC position at Alabama had something to do with that. Willie Taggart could have been a massive rehab project, but it's we'll see what happens with that. Who's to say that Dan Mullen doesn't want to leave the state of Florida? You know what I mean? And if you're Dan Mullen, you're looking at FAU or FIU. For me, that's a no-brainer right now. Maybe if USF opens up with Jeff Scott, I think they're going to give Jeff Scott another year. The Bulls did just let go of Glenn Spencer, if anyone didn't see. So really sucks to see that for Glenn, who is a stand-up guy. Maybe that's something that they're thinking about. It worked for President Kelly bringing Lane Kiffin in. Remember, Brian White was not here at the time. Going around Pat Chun to get Lane Kiffin. So if it's worked in the past, but at the same time, it also, I guess you could say, it hasn't worked if we lose this Saturday and the administration chooses to go another direction from Coach Taggart. It's a 50-50, but it would be a big splash. And we know that's what this university likes to do. So food for thought, my man, food for thought.
Making waves, the motto.
Making that's old school, man. I remember the whole making waves banners and the street lights back in my IRT days. Oh yeah, good times. All right. So guys, thank you so much for joining. We told ourselves we weren't going to try to make this too depressing because there is enough bad vibes already. So Owl Nation, we just want you all to know that we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. This is Thanksgiving week, so we hope everyone stays healthy and stays safe. But most importantly, find something within this realm, within this FAU Owl Nation to be thankful for. And whether it's each other, whether it's this podcast, for me, Cyrus, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for Kirk, Shane, Rick, Colby, the Owl's Nest family, the whole FAU beat. Why don't we just, while things are a little bit doom and gloom, just take a step back and realize that we do have things we should be thankful for. So, on that note, I want to thank you all for listening as always. Can't wait to see you guys again, and hopefully we come back full eligible. Oh man, that's sad. All right, guys, thank you so much as always, and go Owls.